All right, guys, welcome back to Audible Sports, where we're covering Week 8 of the NFL.
I'm going to go ahead and dive right into our starts of the week. At quarterback this week, I have Daniel Jones versus the Chiefs. The Chiefs have been, honestly, hot garbage. They are not what people think they're going to be.
Especially that defense.
Speaking of the defense, that KC defense has given up over 24 points to quarterbacks, which is why I love Daniel Jones this week. We might get Kenny Golladay back, but they're definitely going to be getting Sterling Shepard back. He almost came back for Week 7. They ended up sitting him out for one more week. And Shep's been one of his favorite targets. He's one of the better route runners. Gets open for somebody not as accurate as Daniel Jones. You need that route runner. So I like that he's getting Shepard back. Vegas has it at a 52.5 over-under. And KC has a 10-point favorite, which even though they've been bad this year so far, I like the odds of having a positive game script for passing. So I like Daniel Jones this week.
Yeah, and Daniel Jones can also get it done on his legs, which puts up a lot of fantasy points as well if he can find the end zone. So that would be a help too.
Absolutely. Who you got?
I got Kirk Cousins this week against Dallas. He was red hot going into the bye, threw 373 yards and 3 touchdowns. Dallas is 25th against quarterbacks, and I think he's going to light it up again this week. He's got Jefferson and Thielen, 2 awesome wide receivers. And if Dalvin Cook's healthy, that offense will be one of the best. So I think he's my favorite start this week.
And they got, like you said, they have Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. Both of their running backs are pass catchers, regardless who's starting. We always all love Dalvin Cook. Dallas, I believe, is 25th against quarterbacks. They've been letting it up through the air all year. So I agree with that. I love Kirk Cousins as well.
And it's a high over-under of 54 with a 2.5-point spread. So it's going to be a shootout, I believe, and there's going to be some big points scored that game.
Absolutely. Switching on over to our running back starts of the week. I love Kenny Gainwell this week, the new starter for Philly. We all know how Miles Sanders just went down with an injury, with a nasty ankle injury. Luckily for him, it doesn't look like it's going to be a season ender for him. But at least for the next few weeks, we're going to have Kenneth Gainwell as a starting running back. He was even involved while Miles Sanders was there. He was producing. So now that he's got a hold on that starting job, I think he's going to do really well. Detroit's been giving up 28.7 points to running backs. Let's see what Kenny Gainwell can do in his first start.
Yeah, and he's great with the receptions too, which is what you like to look for in a PPR league for sure. He can definitely put up the points. And, Miles Sanders was my call last week. Sorry about that. He was on a good pace for a good game, but unfortunately he went down.
And Gainwell stepped right in and scored almost 15 points afterwards. And now he's going up against a defense that's ranked 29th in the league versus running back. So I love me some Kenny Gainwell this week.
I'm going to go with the guy on the other side of the ball. It's DeAndre Swift. Eagles are 28th against the run. Swift just scored 24 against the Rams, which is tough to do because that's a good defense. He doesn't do too much when it comes to rushing the ball, but as far as targets go and receptions, he puts up big numbers. He broke off a 76-yard reception right off the rip against the Rams. So
it's hard to get those rush attempts though when you're always down, but that just shows the kind of running back he is. He's game script proof. He can lead the team in targets if they need him to. And Hawkinson, I believe, is still battling a knee injury, and they don't have very many wide receivers to work with over there. So love me some Swift as well.
Yeah, and he leads the team in receptions and carries, so he's getting the volume for sure. All right, for wide receivers this week, I have Emmanuel Sanders. I know a lot of people are going to be looking at Diggs to have a smash game this week, but I think it's going to be Emmanuel Sanders. They're playing the Dolphins, who's 30th against wide receivers. Emmanuel Sanders has 4 touchdowns to Stephon Diggs, 2 touchdowns. He's also barely behind him in reception yards with 413 to Stephon Diggs, 462. So I definitely think Emmanuel Sanders is a good play this week.
Absolutely. As we talked about in previous videos, he's one of the top wide receivers when it comes to air yards. He's got the trust of Josh Allen. I believe he scored over 10 fantasy points every week since week 3. So he's somebody that you can rely on heavily.
Yeah, and he gets those big plays. He has 18 yards per catch the last three of the last 4 games. So
absolutely. For my wide receiver, I'm calling for the revival of Jeudy. They were talking about all last week in week 7 that they can't wait for him to come back. He should be ready to play in week 8. When in week 1, before his injury, he looked to be Teddy Bridgewater's favorite target. He was 6 catches for 7 targets for over 70 yards. Game wasn't even over yet. He just went down with injury. He was looking to be exactly what he was supposed to be out of college.
That was a scary looking injury too, so it's great to see him coming back week 8. I definitely think he'd slide right back into that wide receiver 1 role. Cortland Sutton's looked pretty good, but Jerry Jeudy's definitely that wide receiver 1 there in Denver.
Absolutely, and he's just itching to get back. In all of his interviews, he's ready to come back and start picking up where he left off. And the Washington football team, they're giving up 45.8 points to wide receivers total this year so far, which is 31st in the league. And like I said, in week 1, he looked to be Teddy Bridgewater's favorite target. So I'm anticipating Teddy B to be going right back to him.
Yeah, and I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to have a good week as well.
Absolutely.
Moving on to tight end, who you got?
I'm going for the revenge game narrative for Hunter Henry. I like Hunter Henry this week. The Chargers have been one of the worst teams when it comes to tight ends, allowing over 19 points to the tight end position, which ranks 31st in the league. And Hunter Henry has scored a touchdown in each of the last 4 weeks. So he's a big red zone target.
Mac Jones has definitely been looking down there for the red zone.
And if there was ever a revenge game narrative with the positive regression so far going Hunter Henry's way, this is the one to do it.
I like Tyler Higbee this week. He got targeted 8 times last week. He didn't put up a lot of numbers, but he's going up against Houston, who's one of the worst. They're 31st against the tight end. I think Tyler Higbee's in for a big week. And like I said, I called Zach Ertz last week. He came in and scored 66 yards and a touchdown against Houston last week. So I'm looking for Higbee to do the same.
Houston has been surprisingly good against wide receivers. I'm not calling for any busts on any of the Rams wide receivers, but they've been terrible against tight ends. They're one of the teams that we like to pick on at the tight end position. And like you said, Ertz went off, had the longest touchdown of his career last week against them. I had Higbee as my start of the week until I saw that you beat me to the show, Doc. So I love me some Higbee.
Sounds good. All right, now getting into our bust alert. Who you got?
I'm going with Mike Evans, the man that just come off a hat trick for last week. He just put up a 3-touchdown performance against the Bears. Now he's going up against the Saints, where Marshawn Lattimore has seemed to have his number almost every time that they've been paired up together.
Yeah, they definitely have a history. And Antonio Brown should be coming back, so that could eat into some receptions for Mike Evans.
Not only that, but they might not need him since he's being covered by Marshawn Lattimore. And on top of that, we all know that in the past, Mike Evans has had those hit or miss games anywhere where he goes quiet from time to time. So temper your expectations for Evans this week.
Yeah, it seems like that's happened quite a few times this year. My bust is Deebo Samuel. They're going against
the man on the mission, huh?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an Eli Mitchell game. They should be well ahead of the Bears this week. And there's still questions at quarterback. It seems like every week they want to know who's starting this week. So there's no chemistry to be found. It's tough for a wide receiver and a quarterback when they're switching out every week.
Yeah, it's not that I don't think Deebo could perform, but they're a run-first team anyway, and with how putrid that Bears offense has been, unless Deebo scores early, he might not be needed as much as he's been in the last few, actually every week this year so far.
Yeah, he did have a good week last week, but I think that's going to change this week.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, this is where we usually do our DFS plays of the week, our value plays, and our favorite plays. We're moving that solely over to Twitter. So keep an eye out for our Twitter. Go ahead and follow our handle. It's going to be in the top right above my man Jared here. Keep on the lookout for those favorite plays of the week.
And then when you got some money.